interactive event, and we're delighted that you're here. But we would ask that you come on camera though, so that we can talk to faces and not behind the camera, please. All right. There's John. Hey, John, good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Evelyn.
Good afternoon. Happy Juneteenth.
Yeah, happy New Juneteenth to you. Beautiful day.
Yeah, it is.
Been a while. Good to see you again, John.
Hi, Paul. It's been a while. How have you been?
Definitely on the brighter side. But good,
Yeah.
good, good.
Good.
Okay, people behind the scene, we're going to ask that you come on camera because this is going to be an interactive conversation today. And we prefer not talking with the camera, but with your faces, please. So thank you for that. Okay. I have three people on camera. Okay. We'll invite you guys one more time to come on camera, please. Hi, Megan. You look familiar. I think you may have attended one of our other events before, a long time ago.
I've attended a lot of events, so they kind of blend together. So
I
most
understand.
likely.
I recognize your face from a one like last year, I think. Yeah. So thank you for
That
attending
would
again,
make sense. Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. So we're gonna get started. We're right at 1 o'clock Central Time, and you guys are 2 o'clock your time. So we're actually going to get started. I was looking at a note in the chat here from one of the attendees. Okay. Give me just a minute to, I'm going to invite you guys one more time to come on camera, please. All right. Let's see what it's trying to say. Okay. Well, let's begin. Like I said earlier, my name is Evelyn. I'm one of the organizers, one of the founders of this event, and so is Paul Jackson. And we're incredibly pleased to see you guys here today. It's a small group so far, but we're glad you're here. And we're going to move on with our celebration today. Um, Excuse me for seeing who is in the waiting room here. All right. So we organized in 2020 after George Floyd was killed, and today is actually our 6-year anniversary. So we're very proud of that too. Not proud that George Floyd was killed, of course, but proud that we've been able to maintain and have other events that are more educational, and we can celebrate our history, celebrate other important bits of information that's going on in our nation. So to maximize our event today, we're going to ask you to stay on mute until we recognize you to request you respond to questions that we will have today from the panelists. Right now, Paul and I are going to be the panelists. We have one person that's going to be showing up later. And when you do speak today, we ask that you just give your very honest answers. Don't try to sanitize anything. If you don't understand the question we're asking you, it's okay if you don't respond. But if you choose to respond, we're going to ask you to use your 60 seconds because we're going to give everybody a chance to participate today. We're going to share the airspace. So we're here also to bypass any kind of performative corporate talking. Just be you. And let's grace each other with the lack of cliches. We don't need cliches. We just need honest answers. We're here to educate ourselves. So on this Juneteenth 2026, we kindly ask that you do not name the opposition at any time or include any national information related to the present administration. That's not what we're here for today. We don't need to hear that information. It's not important to this event. So we're going to keep it focused on the purpose of a meeting today. As you know, our title is Brunch, Lunch, Learn Agenda. That's part of the agenda. Juneteenth, Freedom, Legacy, and Future Focused Progress. That's what we're talking about today. So with that said, let's begin, Paul.
Let's begin. On Juneteenth, June 19th, 1865, 2.5 years after Emancipation Proclamation was signed by President Abraham Lincoln, he was a Union Major General, as well as Gordon Granger, arrived in Galveston, Texas, and issued General Order Number 3. This involves the absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former slaves and their slave masters.
Yeah, Paul, with those words, a delayed promise of freedom was finally enforced. But as we know, history is a living thing. So to open our first round of interactive questions, we'll look at how that history lives within us today. But first, let's let's ground ourselves in music, the history of how our people really survived all the intense oppression and slavery. So just take a listen to this song. It's called Called by His Name, and then we'll move forward.
Over the field.
It's cutting out a bit. Yeah, it's still cutting out. Give us a minute, y'all. We'll try to get it situated here.
How about now?
That's much better. Thank you.
Chains upon the body, but they couldn't touch what God called whole. Cried out in the darkness, didn't know if dawn would come, but a voice rose up through the suffering, saying, "Child, you are not done." Through the fire he was speaking, through the storm he held the door. He knew every tear that fell, and he knew me even more. Fear not, I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name. You are mine, says the Lord Almighty. You will never be the same. Through the valley, through the darkness, through the breaking and the pain, rise up, child, I know you. I have called you by your name. No auction block can claim me. No chain can define my worth. The God who spoke the stars to life spoke purpose in my birth. When the world said you are nothing, heaven said you are mine. Every scar became a testimony. Every trial made me shine. Through the fire he was speaking, through the storm he held the door. He knew every tear that fell, and he knew me even more. Fear not, I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name. You are mine, says the Lord Almighty. You will never be the same. Through the valley, through the darkness, through the breaking and the pain, by your name. You are mine. You are mine. You're mine. Call by name. Your name. You are his. You are his. You are
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, and
I
thank you guys
suppose.
for folks who are logging in. So thank you for being here. We're going to keep moving forward, so we're going to respect you guys' time today with this 90 minutes. But I'm going to deviate just a little bit from the agenda today, Paul, just for a split second here. For the folks who heard that song, I would like to hear your understanding of what was said in that song. Maybe just one person, if you were listening carefully and you have a perspective. What you hear? Because Linda, you're muted, but take it away.
Okay.
You're good.
Every time it seems different with Zoom. I needed to hear that today. I was feeling pretty low, and that really lifted me up and reminded me that I'm not alone.
Thank you for that. And you're not alone. We're here. We're here together in this space together. And Lita, looks like you're trying to unmute.
Yes, even though I only heard the last. Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay, let's make sure. No, I just only heard a few minutes of, but again, to piggyback what Linda said, that I know I'm special, I know I'm unique, I know he knows my name. And so again, it just reiterates that I'm not alone through anybody, any issue.
All right,
Thank you. Thank you both. So basically what that song is about, if you would go back and study the history of slavery for yourself, I think you would better understand that enslaved people didn't just like acquiesce. They trusted God for everything. And in spaces like this, sometimes people might have this question, why do you always talk about God? Because if it's about slavery, that's how my people made it through the process. They didn't make it through the process by going to the master, not on this earthly master, but by the master that's in heaven. They deeply believe in that, So it's the foundation of what we're celebrating today is about God too. Even though we're going to give you history of the enslaved people, it's going to be snippets of what is really already out there. And we're going to give you hopefully enough information today that will kind of cause you to be hungry enough to research information for yourself. And because I think the more we learn about cultures and people, the better we can get along in this nation. It's my perspective that we don't get along well because we don't know each other well. We have surface level information, and that's sometimes not enough. So we're going to move on to the next part. We're going to be talking about freedom, waiting on freedom. There was 891 days delayed, waiting on freedom. So President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863. The law legally freed enslaved people in the southern states. However, Texas was far away and did not have enough Union soldiers to enforce the law. Because of this, the enslavers from other states actually moved enslaved people into Texas to keep them trapped. Before that, there were 60,000 enslaved people in Texas. But once the migration started, this migration is known as refugeeing. It significantly swelled the enslaved population in Texas. And by the time the Union soldiers arrived in Galveston to announce the Emancipation Proclamation on June 19th, 1865, the enslaved population in Texas had reached to over 250,000 people. So for 891 days, Texas enslavers intentionally kept the news of freedom a secret, intentionally. So here's a question for you guys, and I'm going to ask if you're on camera to respond, but I'm going to ask everyone if you're in this group to please come on camera. Here's the question, and we can have 3 or 4 different responses because you might have different information. Knowing that enslavers hid the news of the Emancipation Proclamation, what does this tell you about the relationship between profit and basic human rights? So let us know when you're ready to respond. Or you're welcome to come off mute one at a time.
Can I go ahead and speak, Miss Evelyn?
Yes, please.
It shows me that they didn't care. They were more concerned about their personal needs as opposed to another human being's freedom.
John?
You see it even in non-discriminatory ways today. Tobacco industry, fossil fuel industry, they know the harm that they've done and are doing, and they hide the truth and try to spin half lies and half truths as the truth. And so you see it carrying through to this day, and that's part of the reason we fight as well.
Thank you, John. Nita? Okay, I'll come back to you, Nita, if you can get unmuted. But Linda, your hand is up too. And you're still muted
It
too.
sadly reminds me of today. Profit seems to be winning over people in this country. And I don't think enough people have awakened to that fact. I had no idea about Texas doing that in the 1860s, and it's just disgusting. And I find that true today too.
Thank you for that. And Rebecca, I see your hand raised. And you're muted, Rebecca.
Linda just said what I was going to say, profits over people. I believe it's all about they needed the workers, and the plantations needed the workers, and it was all about profits over people. So they withheld the information.
Thank you, Rebecca. I think I see one more hand. Well, that's it. Okay. All right. So we're going to move a little bit beyond this, but I do have another, just a comment on this one. It's what you guys have already said. The enslavers hid the truth for 891 days after January 1st, 1863, forcing over 250,000 people into labor. But for cotton harvest, though, I'm from Texas, so I understand, and I'm also an educator, so this is not news to me. But just for cotton, because there's a lot of cotton in Texas to harvest and maximize the profits for themselves. You guys have already said it. But I think the more we understand this history, we're not caught in such awe. But we're not just sharing it today for you to have this information for yourself. I heard, I think it was someone said earlier, they didn't know this about Texas. So if you don't know this information and you have it now, I would strongly encourage you guys to share it so that you are not, we're not just surprised by what happens. The more we know, the more we can share this information with other people. Paul, do you want to take the part that the other person was going to have, the part B, or do you want me to do that one?
I can take that.
Okay, thank you.
Besides the fact that they had no respect for
You finishing her statement?
Rebecca, did you have another comment?
for black.
I think she just wasn't muted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So when this occurred, we had the Union General Gordon Granger. He arrived in Galveston and he read General Order 3. This order finally enforced the law and announced that all enslaved people were free. The document promised absolute equality of personal rights. However, the very next sentence added strict rules. It told the newly free people to remain quietly at their presence homes and work for wages. It also warned that the military would not help them if they traveled or stopped working. This meant that even though they were legally free, they were ordered to stay on the same plantations and work for the same people who had just oppressed them. With that information, our question is, can true freedom exist when a law tells you that you are free, but also orders you to be quiet, stay put, and keep working for your former master? It's a interesting, I guess, like set of rules, but literally it's still a oppression of how to control and manage.
I think Rebecca has her hand up and then Linda.
Okay.
Rebecca, do you want to respond? Yes, you were the first with the hand up. Okay, Linda.
In a word, nope. That is not freedom. Again, reminds me a little of what's going on now. And the question too. So if the slave owners moved their slaves to Texas, then they weren't back on whatever, their Alabama plantations or whatever to work. So did the slaveholders move too? Or, I mean, how do they get their money?
Is someone want to respond to that? Do you have enough information to respond to that, anyone? Or just give your understanding of her question? How are they able to maintain? Galena.
Well, I feel like because, especially if they were southern states, and at that time they were still like separated or considered their own country, they could have moved them back to their home plantation and just continued as quota as so. But if they stayed in Texas, I'm pretty sure they had a kickback. They were going to still get their money no matter what. That's the perception that I read into history and example.
That's actually the historical truth. Thank you. Okay. Any other comments on that? I'm going to ask you guys a question then before we go to the next part. How familiar are you guys with Juneteenth and any of the history associated with it? What is your understanding of June? I mean, you probably know what the word Juneteenth means, but how much do you really know about it? Because we can only give you so much information today, but we want to make sure that we're not just sharing information without you having conversations back with us too. But if you don't know, you can't have a conversation with us. So just want to know where you're standing. So if we just share information, then we can do just that too. So Megan, you look like you're about to respond. How familiar are you guys with Juneteenth and everything that happened? Okay, Linda.
Apparently not enough. I knew it had to do with emancipation. And I think I was taught that because it was the 1800s and there wasn't, great communication, it took that long for slaves to know that the Emancipation Proclamation had existed. And that's pretty much it.
Mhm. That's the part of our American history that has been taught to a lot of people. But we're notorious in this nation for leaving out the true part of the history, though. So yeah,
Definitely.
I totally understand that. That's certainly information that I've heard from other people too. John.
I knew the basics of just what you had said at the start, that it was withheld until it could be enforced, 2+ years later in Texas. And at that point, it was announced and they had the troops there to enforce it. I didn't know anything about the transfer of slaves from the South, pure South to Texas. Um, and I didn't know that they were ordered to stay on the plantations. Um, Although, if I was writing up an order like that, I just think my logistics would be I'd have to have a transition period that would say for the next 3 months, you have to stay on that plantation while plans are made for people that can leave and the crops don't rot in the field, but you have to get paid. So I would see a transition period not to be unreasonable because where you're going to go in 3 months anyway, because you've got to make plans to live somewhere else or around in Texas. So that would just be my 2 cents on that order, even though it doesn't sound like it was time bound at all. It sounded like it was an open ended order, which of course is not freedom then.
Mhm. Lena.
Again, since I have been in Miss Evelyn's presence, I have gathered even more information, but definitely right after it became a federal law in 2021, I did my own personal research. But in conversations that we have had in the past, I realized that as a child, we always had a festival in Richmond. I'm in Virginia, y'all. It was called June Jubilee. Did not put the two together, but I don't think I ever heard the term Juneteenth, but I always knew June Jubilee. Every June, there was lots of music, there was food, a lot of Black people, but it was never equated to Juneteenth. But I do know that celebration as June Jubilee, which is another name for Juneteenth. And like again, I have been encouraged and inspired by Miss Evelyn. Like later tonight, I'll be doing my own intro to Juneteenth for people virtually, so I can pass on their knowledge.
Thank you, Lena. Thank you, John. And I do have another question that's not part of this too. There are people on here, and I want to know why you guys showed up today. There must be something intriguing about Juneteenth. Why did you show up? Megan, you want to take a hit at that one? Why are you here again today? Can you unmute? There you go.
Yeah, sorry. My button was frozen earlier. My computer is pretty old, so sorry.
Okay.
But the reason why I'm here today is I know that oppression didn't end when slavery ended. And so we always have to continue to learn the history, the true history, to make sure that history doesn't continue to repeat itself and learn new ways to try to talk to one another. Also, I love just the different cultures that different communities have, and it's such a fun thing to celebrate and learn with other people. So happy to be here.
Thank you. And where are you dialing in from, Megan?
Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Oh,
So,
okay. All right. You're my neighbor.
yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah.
All right. And Linda, you're our rock star responder today, Linda.
I'm what?
You're the
Oh,
rock star responder.
yeah, I like to talk.
I can't tell that. Prove it, Melinda, prove it.
Well, for those of you that I'm making dizzy for moving around my house, I am seated in my recliner now. So I'm
Awesome.
always late. Yeah, I came to learn. And obviously I already have. Yeah, that was my main reason. I wanted to learn more about what Juneteenth was, and just hang out with folks.
Great, great. Thank you. Sheila Hunter, your hand is up, and then Sean. I'm not sure which one is first, but I'll go with Sheila.
Yes, I'm here because I'm 70 years old And I have been attending some Juneteenth events, and to find out the information that I have been finding out about the facts is just wow. And I want to get all I can get in so I can take it and move it on and give it to my relatives, my friends at the passing of the young kids now that don't know nothing, you know. And I mean, a lot of that stuff that happened. I mean, I remember stuff in the 60s, but you're talking way back when they started protesting and everything. And I just want to get all that I can.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Sean, you're next.
Well, I'm going to piggyback off Sheila because I think it's important that we keep the history alive, the knowledge alive for those that come later. You know, a lot of the young people don't know this stuff. They don't know the history. I still believe that Texas did it for economic reasons. I think they knew all along, but they were exploiting slavery. I think they kept it alive to line their pockets. And the only ones that were free was the slave owners to keep them oppressed. And I think it's very important that this day never be forgotten and never be repeated. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sean, where are you dialing in from?
I'm in Oregon right now, but I'm originally from New York, Brooklyn.
Okay, thank you. All right. And so when you guys speak next time, if you don't mind, if you haven't already shared with us, let us know where you're dialing in from, please.
Sean has a cute dog.
Okay. All right. So we're going to move on now. And Paul, are you the next speaker? I'm scrolling on my iPad here. This is very informal. So if we look like we're not organized, we are. We always have meetings like this. So we're not so like rigid that you can't follow us. So just relax and follow along with us. We're not quite done yet. That was prompt number 1.
Yeah.
Let's skip prompt number 2. And maybe Jarrell's going to show up later. But if you want to go to your part right now.
The history books.
Yeah, let's do that part now.
Okay. So the Emancipation Proclamation and the 13th Amendment. On January 1st, 1863, President Lincoln issues the Emancipation Proclamation. It declares freedom for enslaved people, but only in the Confederate States. The reality: Texas ignores this decree. Enslaved people remain in bondage because there are no Union soldiers in the state to enforce it. Therefore, June 19th, 1865, Union General Gordon Granger arrives in Galveston, Texas. He delivers General Order 3 and finally enforces the emancipation. Juneteenth, this day marks the true end of slavery on the grounds of the Confederacy, as 250,000 Texans learn they are now free. On December 6, 1865, the 13th Amendment is officially ratified. It permanently outlaws slavery across the entire United States, including loyal border states. When we look at history, why do you think our culture prefers the clean story of a peaceful pen stroke over the reality of forced compliance? What are we fundamentally afraid to admit about how justice actually happens? So some responses we can look at are, people generally speaking to prefer or believe our society is inherently civilized, rational, and polite, which is a narrative centered on the signature that makes progress look clean and peaceful, or living up to a American imagery, instead of having a debate of the dangerous struggles within our history. Oftentimes, this could also look at the celebration of the pen, where Victor is written by those who are informing such information, which makes sense to have the credit of our government and lawmakers to proceed such information. This also allows a system to look benevolent while completely overshadowing the messy, disruptive outsiders who actually force the change. People do not comply just because the law is right. They comply because the state threatens consequences for breaking it. It should be any crime. But admitting such truths means acknowledging that the polite, non-disruptive behavior rarely changes such status quo. So when we look at history, why do you think our culture prefers the clean story of a peaceful pen stroke over the reality of forced compliance? Truly think, what are we fundamentally afraid to admit about how justice actually happens? Maybe it's just accountability. I'll say, even for myself, probably just being a man. I think that's one of the hardest things men can do. And it doesn't stop regardless of color and levels of, I guess, role and even political office. So I'm curious to see other people's perspectives.
Sheila, Linda, and John have their hands raised.
All righty. Let's go with John.
I'm going to say a call it variation of what you just said. I mean, it's clean. It admits we have to admit our flaws to admit it's messy. And so therefore, all the ideals, the great American ideals that are in the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, etc., that doesn't match the reality of what's been on the ground. And I watched the Ken Burns, I don't know what, the American Revolution special for like 14 nights, whatever it was. And he made the point, this was not a lofty war. This was a civil war even then within the states, brother against brother, house against house. He says, sure, we had the lofty goals in Philadelphia, but on the ground, it was a bloody slog war that we tried to sanitize even that civil war versus this civil war and here. And so again, it's that whole trying to make America seem perfect, or maybe an aim thing that anybody doesn't want to address their faults unless they actually have to. And so the compliance forces you to address your faults of society. So that's my take, that is a parallel to the American Revolution as well.
Linda?
Yeah, the sanitization of history, definitely. And I watched the Ken Burns documentary as well and learned a lot there that, yeah, it was messy, and justice is messy. That's one thing I've been learning a lot about lately, that, yeah, we have laws and most people comply, but sometimes it's messy getting there. And a question again. So the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. Were there consequences if slave owners didn't let their people go?
Yeah, I'm going to respond this way, Linda, and I'm glad you're here. Hope you return for other meetings that we have too. But one of our founding principles is that we don't respond like that. And the reason we don't respond to questions like that is not that we don't have the answer. We chose from the very beginning to encourage people to research and come back to this group and let us know what you found. because we could spend a lot of time sharing your answers to your responses, but we want you guys to self-educate. And if you find something that's very interesting that we did not talk about today, you are actually encouraged to come back and do a 30-minute segment with us and update us.
Okay.
That's how we run this group. We have been from the beginning. Or if you want to lead an hour session, that's great. But we have chosen not to be, we won't even tell you what books to read. We have lists of books that we could actually encourage you to read, but it might not be of your interest. So we want to make sure people are self-educating, because we believe that, I'll give you this example. My grandmother taught me how to fish. Literally, my grandmother taught me how to fish. I'm afraid to take the fish off the hook today, but she taught me how to fish. I know how to fish. I don't have to ask anyone anymore how to fish. So it's the same kind of analogy. If we give you all the answers, and that's a general statement, then you might come back and ask more questions later on. That's also a general statement. We want you to come back and not just ask questions, but say, I found this information that I think will be helpful to this group. That's our response to that. So, but I could answer your question in 2 sentences, but I won't today. Great question. Thank you so much for asking. And please feel free, if you have our email address, send me an email if you're interested in researching some information on this topic, and let us know if you would like to present it later. All righty. Anita, oh my gosh, you're unmuted. Oh my gosh, Anita is unmuted. Thank you so much. Take it away, Anita.
I don't.
I think you must have maybe a couple of your systems are open, because that's why you have an echo. Something has to be shut down so you're not echoing.
Yes.
I can hear you now.
It won't let me.
Yeah, there's still an echo. Yeah.
Okay. I'll just respond and check.
Yeah. Do you have a headset, Anita? You're welcome to share your information in the chat if you'd like, then. Because I know you've been trying to get on for the last few minutes. You're welcome to share if you have a response to the question, you're welcome to share it in the chat. Okay, and then there's one more hand up, I think. No, that's fine. Right, does anyone else have anything to share on this particular segment of our meeting today? If not, then we're going to ground you guys again with music. This is a Juneteenth song that we're going to boot up just right now. Give us a few minutes to get this one booted up. And we want you guys to just really listen, and let's see if you're going to have comments after the music plays about what you hear. And then we'll go into the next segment.
We remember, we rise, we sing. There was a morning they had prayed for, a word carried on the wind. Chains were breaking in the distance, freedom finally walked in. But freedom came with stories written deep in blood and tears. So we lift our hands with honor for the ones who brought us here. We don't forget the road, we don't forget the pain. We carry every name like fire in our veins. This is Juneteenth, a freedom song we sing for the fathers and the mothers who dream beyond their suffering. This is Juneteenth, let the whole world hear. We are standing on their shoulders, to the sound of history. Every prayer that rose in darkness, every voice they tried to hide, now becomes a holy chorus singing, we are still alive. We don't forget the road, we don't forget the pain we carry every day. We're like fire in our veins. This is Juneteenth, a freedom song we sing for the fathers and the mothers who dream beyond their suffering. This is Juneteenth, let the whole world hear. We are standing on their shoulders, and we're still rising here. Freedom was delayed, but it was not denied. Truth may come late, but truth still arrives. So we teach our sons and daughters what the brave ones had to do to turn sorrow into strength and make the old world new. This is Juneteenth, the freedom song we sing for the fathers and the mothers who dream beyond their suffering. This is Juneteenth, let the whole world hear. We are standing on their shoulders, and we're still rising here. We remember, we rejoice, we are freedom, we are voice. This is Juneteenth, hey, we're still rising here.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you guys for listening. There was a lot of information in that song, and that was a story also. It's part of what we do. We have stories that we use words, where we use words. We have stories where we sing. It's part of every single culture in the world. We all love music. It's the universal language music is. So, but we have to listen to the music to be part of that culture. It's like eating their food, talking about the food. Listen to their music, talking about the music. What did you hear?
I heard that the parents had the hope and they knew what they had came through and surviving. So again, that just reiterates the pride and from point A to point B. They knew it wasn't easy, but they always had that hope or the dream in their head.
Exactly. Thank you, Lena. Anyone else hear anything different from what Lena shared? I understand that the music is different from probably what you listen to. So sometimes it's harder to understand the stories that are shared in different music also. So you guys are certainly encouraged to listen to this recording. It's on YouTube at your own convenience and just really take in the words. Okay. Linda.
Just keep on fighting, keep moving forward. Don't give up.
Okay, I'm going to piggyback off that one too. Even we're not talking about stuff that's going on in our nation today. Keep moving forward. Don't give up. That resonates with us today and everything that we need to do, whether we're writing postcards, making phone calls, canvassing, or whatever it is, we can really become just tired. Just tired. But you know what? I heard yesterday, I attended the kickoff for President Obama's event in the city. And we were encouraged just to remember especially as African Americans, we don't have the luxury, or anyone else who feels like your freedom has been withdrawn. We don't have the luxury of sitting on the sideline. We don't have that luxury. So it's going to take all of us to make a difference. Yeah, I'm standing on my ancestors' shoulders for sure. I think about that almost every single day when I'm doing something for someone else, because I didn't learn what I'm doing by myself. I learned it from a group of people who were really encouraged to help other people. So I don't find it difficult to do that because it's what I saw and it's embedded in. It's like drinking a glass of water to me. There's always an opportunity to lift up someone else every single day. And you know what? It is tiring, but it's not all about me, is it? It's about us together collectively. Yeah. So Lena, you're off mute. Take away, and then we'll go to the next part.
Again, another important part that I heard was teach the children. The children are the future. You always have to keep that in your forefront that children are watching you, they're listening to you. And again, you have to share these struggles with them so they know it wasn't just so. It wasn't just so that, it wasn't easy by no stretch of the imagination. And it's not something to take for granted.
Yeah. Thank you, Lena. Sean, I was about to comment on your first comment when you said that our young people really are uninformed. So based on what Lena said, it looks like we have a job to do. And your young people are right around you. They're in your community. But I want to hear what you have to say, Sean, because when she was talking, I was thinking about you. Take it away.
I was going to say, though it speaks to the future, it also reminds us that a lot of this history that we know now is because of song from the past. And you really need to, it reminds you to think about what you've heard in the past. Maybe go back and listen to some of these songs back from 1850s, 1830s. They were brought up for a reason. History, because it wasn't being told by the white people, definitely,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
it was kept alive.
Thank you for that, Sean. We actually have already done an event on that where we talked about the music. It might have been last Juneteenth. I can't remember now. But anyway, we've already done that. It maybe it needs to be repeated. We'll think about that as a team and perhaps share some of the information. And speaking of repetition, today this information is purposely written for repetition. You've heard Paul talk about the Emancipation Proclamation. You heard him talk about Granger several times because that's the information we want to leave with you. Anytime, and this has come from me as being a teacher, anytime you want your students to remember something, you repeat the most important parts. So we've talked about the Emancipation Proclamation. We've talked about the 250,000 people and that date, January 1st, 1863, June 19th, 1865. Those dates are very, very important. So if you're going to start some research, start with General Order Number 3, the Emancipation Proclamation. And we're trying to set you guys up for your own research, is what it all amounts to. Are there any other comments before we go to the last part? Because we want to make sure that we've been respectful of your time and we're just right on the dot of this last prompt, I believe. Any other questions, comments? All right. So now, Paul, do you want to do this one or you want me to do it? The one that Darrell was going to do.
I can go about it for the Blueprint Legacy.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So with the Blueprint Legacy, we are focusing on the inclusion to sovereign infrastructure. So in the year 1872, our ancestors pulled $800, just $800, to purchase 10 acres of land, which established the Emancipation Park in Houston, Texas. They bypassed the temporary relief to own the ground that they stood on permanently. And here is a different shift. We have, how do we shift our focus from fighting for inclusion in spaces we do not own to building sovereign institutional infrastructure that we fully control?
That question was written to make you guys think it's impossible. So I want to hear your perspectives.
Hello, it's me again. You
Okay.
got to organize. You got to research. Organize, research. Share the information that you learn. Learn, or listen to different perspectives. Because again, if you stay in one state, you become stagnant. You don't hear anything from the past. You don't think about the future. You're just stuck. That's what happens.
Any other comments on that? Have you guys, I'll ask a question. Have you guys ever fundraised for a person that was in need and or for maybe a community organization for someone that was hungry, for a child who didn't have any clothes? Have you ever given to a backpack to a kid that just didn't have the funds to buy a backpack for themselves? And if so, did you do it in a vacuum or did you include other people? How was that done? How do you really decide to help other people? Or did you just get up in one morning and say, I'm going to do this? It's going to be all my project. How do we, and I'm going to make it happen. Just me, me, me. Have you done anything?
It's me again, Lena. At the time that I was a single mom, even without thinking about it, we collectively made a decision that we were going to babysit for each other so that we would have that free time or be able to socialize our children outside of their regular schedule, their regular daycare, their regular preschool. But like again, it was a need that I had, and I realized it was a need that other people had. And so, like I said, it was just like I had the thought, and I thought that other people feel that way. And again, I had to ask that question. And the more I asked, the more I found out yes. So we were bartering and trading and babysitting and sharing meals, whatever we had to do. You know, one lady was more skilled in my daughter's hair than I was. That's not one of my strong things, but whatever we had that need for, the more that we developed that community of single moms kind of thing, the more we realized that we could help each other and benefit from each other's help.
Thank you. Linda.
Um, sadly, I'm more of a joiner than a leader, um, in most things. I think part of that is just because I was in leadership roles when I was working, and now that I'm retired, I'm just kind of that. But the prompt kind of reminded me of um, brought to my mind the American with Disabilities Act. When it was passed, I thought, well, that's a good thing, and people should be able to access buildings. And then people were complaining about costs and blah, blah, blah. And then I became disabled myself. Um, and of course, that gave me a whole different perspective as I learned more about it and what I was entitled to. Um, and finding that, some places made their buildings more accessible to stick to the letter of the law, but in practice, we're not that great. An example I like to use is in a courthouse, a different state that I used to live in, and they put in a ramp so that people could get in, but the ramp was like twice because it had to wind around to get the proper incline. It was like twice as far as the building was long. It was terrible. And when I brought it up, people were like, shrug their shoulders. Well, we did what we can do, and taxes, and blah, 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 and it really angered me.
Yeah, I think we're going to go back to the focus, Linda, but thank you for sharing that information. We're
Sure.
going to try to stick to the focus of the event today. And Paul, do you want to go to the next question?
Yes, we have.
My hand was up, Sheila.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, Sheila,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Take it away.
Yeah, I almost forgot what you were asking now. I have a small group that I stick with for friends and everything. And every time we see things that's going on around us or in our community, we try to pull together and try to help as much as we can, like helping out the schools when schools start, or Cancer Society, and try to give and raise for that. And that's how I really basically just, dealing with other people and bringing it to their attention and trying to do what I can.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you both.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Paul.
Response to that, is redirecting our capital, time, and intellectual property away from attempting to reform external systems, seeking a seat at a table built on our exploitation yields nothing but wreckable permissions. True legacy requires building community-owned infrastructure instead of burning resources in hopes of institutional equity. We must anchor our security and wealth into assets we permanently own. Our next takeaway is in 1866, during the first official Juneteenth, newly emancipated people in Texas ceremoniously cast off their rag slave garments, threw them into local rivers, and intentionally donned fine silk and tailored clothing. Under chattel slavery, strict legal codes restricted Black attire to coarse, stretchy Negro cloth, designed to enforce dynamic separation and strip away dignity. As we think about in returns to an economy that continuously commodifies the public display of Black trauma, why is the internal decision to live in an unapologetic joy and excellence a radical act of mindset liberation?
I'll start with that one, Paul.
Okay.
Just in case you guys didn't hear what was going on, but surely you can visualize what was going on during slavery. And that visualization says that the women wore clothes yesterday, today, tomorrow, that were the same clothes. Ragged, dirty, greasy, but that's all they had. However, when they recognized that the Emancipation Proclamation was in their area, they did something different. They had a little bit of money. And so they actually literally put those clothes in the river where they used to wash them. And they got the best clothes ever for them. Maybe not for society around them, but for them, the best clothes ever. And that's what they wore. And they were unapologetic about it. Why do you think, as Paul has already asked, that's a mindset liberation? But what does that entail? Can you talk about those words? Mindset liberation. What does that mean? Megan. I think Megan was first, Lena. Then you go. Yeah, take it away, Megan.
I was going to say they're taking back their power, and they're able to make a statement, using the money that they have to be able to buy things for themselves and get rid of what happened in the past by putting the clothing in the river.
Beautiful. Love it. Lena.
Or again, like, you can beat my body, but I can still be free in my mind. And so again, that's being free. Even though I'm not physically free, I'm still free in my mind. You can't control what's in my mind. So again, that's how you survive from day or morning to night. from night to morning, because again, you have to think of the atrocities that they physically went through. I think back from the passage from Africa to over here, how many people jumped the ship? Their mindset was probably completely, I'm going to die anyway. Let me go ahead. It's worse for me to make it to this new land and have to be forced to be a slave than just to jump off the ship and go in the water now. So again, your mindset is so powerful. It can either make you or it can break you.
Yeah.
So again, what you think about day in, day out, it affects your personality, how you hold yourself, what type of work you do you have a good work ethic? It all starts in the mind.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. I want to make sure I'm not missing anybody this time. Let me check and see. Are there other hands up, other comments? Okay. All right, Paul, back to you. Oh, John, I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand. Take it away, John.
I think that close, throwing out the old and bringing on the new, also says what this term I've heard for the first time in like a few years, 5 years, is agency. Agency now rests with the liberated, that they were suppressed and couldn't exercise before. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you all for sharing. Yeah, and I'll just share a little bit too here. And some of you guys have heard me say this before, but when I was an educator, when I was teaching in Texas, I chose to teach in schools that were low income, low socioeconomic, to make a difference. Not because the kids couldn't learn, because they were some of the most intelligent kids I've ever taught in my life, but I wanted to show them what they could do for themselves. A lot of when I was teaching then, I stitched the majority of the clothes that I wore. And I remember taking my sewing machine to my classroom to stitch cheerleading skirts for my girls who could not afford to buy the skirts. So I would spend time about a week after a whole week making cheerleading skirts, and all they had, the tops were just t-shirts. We had these cute little scarves and stuff like that. But I wanted to show them what they could do for themselves, regardless of what was around them, regardless of their situation. Because their parents actually had enough money at the time. We made a cheerleading skirt for like $2. That's how much the fabric cost. But to show them, don't stop here. You could become your own seamstress and have your own business someday. And we talk that kind of language because we had to, just to encourage them. Where you live is not who you are. Look at how intelligent you are already. Use your intelligence to rise above where you are. And I keep in contact with my students. A lot of them have risen out of that the situation they found themselves in. I'm not going to take all credit for it, but just to know that along the way, we have the opportunity every single day. And I believe some of you guys do this every single day. You encourage people along the way and you let them know you can rise above this. I know you do that. Maybe you don't even think about it because it's just part of who you are. So I just want to say thank you guys for doing that, but we can do a lot more too. I'm taking over your part, Paul. I don't mean to do that. Take it away.
It's okay. It's okay. Um, hmm. Yeah, like and looking those at just different forms of like capitalism, where capitalism excels at swallowing revolutionary history. We can see it from standpoints where it strips away the structure to critique and spitting it back at harmless consumerism. Um, I think we've seen that. What was the most recent one I'm trying to think of? But oftentimes we'll see that with holidays. It's a big one. Of course, and people know as well as Halloween is a big one. Um, but looking at it from the standpoint of taking our power and not necessarily giving it to the capitalists that can extract, or we put the emotion on what they could be doing and utilizing it for their own benefit, but yet, people still consume it. So that's a personal choice. Um, but we go about it as in how do we enforce strict material penalties on entities that try to turn our history into a hollow PR stunt. And ways that can look upon is this shift can be moving from passive consumption to aggressive economic auditing. I think what the most recent one will be like the boycott happening with like Target. Um, as well as you can see a celebration without agitation and pacification. Um, if a corporate entity uses Juneteenth imagery while maintaining wage disparities or locking marginalized talent out of executive boards, their celebration is a form of economic exploitation. We enforce accountability by withholding labor, redirecting consumer dollars, and demanding transparent, unsiloed data. So core takeaway is hold brands materially accountable, demand metrics, not just marketing.
And again, the first thing that comes to my mind is the those boycotts. You know, if you really stop and think about the magnitude of that decision to not ride buses, they carpool, they rode bikes, and again, it wasn't until the owners of the bus stations realized it was hurting their pocket. They're like, oh, we got to do something about this kind of thing. And again, I feel like they're trying to replicate something like that today, but people haven't quite caught on to it yet. Our our comfortability or our conformity or the comfort. We're comfort creatures. You know, like, do I really want to give up my latte? You know, or whatever your what you call your vice is it worth enough to me to make like a big change in the world or in my community?
Hello. Sheila.
Make sure they're, oh, Sheila, okay, take it away,
Yeah,
Sheila.
I don't know if we're going to be on that much longer, but every time, is it Lena that was just on? It's like it's back in the background. All I can hear is like, like TV or something whenever she speaks.
Yeah, she's in a certain situation where I understand where she is. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you though.
Okay, because I can't understand the things she's saying, but okay.
All right, thank you. Okay. Paul, did you have any more to share on that part?
Not at all.
Okay, so I think what we're gonna do, because it's almost 2:15 and we do have some call to actions for you guys. I know we didn't get to go into a lot of in-depth today, but that was part of the plan too, just kind of get you guys thinking and hopefully continue gathering information for yourself on Juneteenth, and not only that, on what you can do as you consider helping other people rebuild where they are. I don't know what that rebuilding looks like where you are. I don't know if it's a family who needs clothing for their children. I don't know if it's someone who needs housing. I don't know what that looks like for you. But you do. You know the area in which you live. What can you do to make the economic situation better for people? It's not going to be you by yourself, though. But I know there's a way to organize. And I'm going to give you kind of an ambiguous idea of what I'm talking about. I was part of a group that actually we fed the unhoused every weekend, breakfast and lunch. And that particular program in this particular situation has been shut down. But there's a determination in people who really deeply care about humanity. When you see someone hungry, you're not going to say, okay, so that door closed. What am I going to do now? What are they going to do now? So there's a group of us that have gotten together. We have another building. And this has been within the last, I would say, 2 months. It's like we built friendships there. And, we took food to feed these people. These are our friends. And for someone to say, we're not going to continue, it's like we're saying, okay, we will. And that particular group actually is meeting right now as this meeting is going on. First meeting today. So I know when minds come together, when it's about humanity, things can happen. And I might add, though, it's just a bunch of women that organize this. Not to say anything against the guys, but a bunch of women, because we don't like to see people hungry. We don't like to see kids hungry. We don't like to see people with walking with no shoes on their feet. And we've seen that. So if we can make a difference, let's do it, because I think we have the capacity to do so. I know I do. But it's a blessing to be in community with other people because you can share ideas, you can share resources, you can share your money, and you don't feel like you're all by yourself. That is always there for us. So I would like to close, and so that we don't delay you guys from doing whatever else you need to do today, by saying thank you for joining. But I do have some calls to action. If you guys can hang with us for another 15 minutes, because we're done at 2:30 Central Time. But I would like to say to you guys that we joined today not to celebrate a concession. This is a historical moment today. But to me, it feels like we gathered to audit a system, because we're talking about helping other people. We're not talking about Juneteenth happened and the slaves were free and you leave it there, because they didn't leave it there. Based on what Paul said, they had $800 that they gathered together and created Emancipation Park in Houston, Texas, that's still active today. It's a beautiful location in Houston, Texas. So what I would like to say is we are closing this space. We'd like to close this space exactly how our ancestors opened the doors for Emancipation Park, without absolute clarity. They didn't know how it was going to turn out, but it didn't stop them. They didn't know what it was going to be. They didn't have the blueprint. They knew what they wanted to do. But that was in 1872. And they pulled together how much money? $800 to buy land, because they knew a seat at a bar table was only temporary. What about owning something for yourself? So Juneteenth isn't just a story of freedom granted. It's a history of freedom built from the ground up by regular, ordinary people. They didn't have like millions of dollars, but they talked, they communicated. Lena said they planned, they mobilized. And they did not wait for permission to build that community. They did not wait for permission to pool the resources or protect their spaces. And we shouldn't either. We must be future focused. History is going to always be there, and we always have to reflect back to the history, but we must be future focused if we're going to help other people, though. So what I pulled together are just a few, and I'm hoping I can upload it. Paul, do you have those the links? We have links to some pretty well known Black businesses that, if you are interested in taking a look at their plan, and maybe we'll help you in your own area to plan some events or organize some gatherings to help people in your area. There's one is the economic leverage, and that's the one he just posted in there. It's the One United Bank. It's one of the largest Black banks in the country. And then we have there's official Black Wall Street, and you guys can download all this for yourself. And just go online and research it for yourself. We're going to put just a few of this bits of information here for you to have for yourself, and just to know how you can really support Black businesses. We don't have that many Black businesses where I live, but I am part of Black businesses in other states, more specifically in the South. And you guys have heard of the National Urban League. They provide education for youth, mentorship, career opportunities. And I'm sure you've heard the HBCUs. You can support the Black colleges. And then there's community health. We're always concerned about community health in Black communities and otherwise too. So there are a number of entities. If you would just research Black businesses online and see what you can learn from them, from their organization, so it will help you focus toward perhaps starting some kind of an organization within your own area that's going to be an outreach for people who are less fortunate than we are, that we can be a part of starting their history for them. So with that said, we have one more bit of music. Paul, I hope I shared that with you. I think I did. And this one is in support of recognition of President Obama and the opening of his museum and library yesterday. And the song is called Yes, We Can. That was his overriding theme whenever he was running for president the first time. Yes, we can. And so with that one, I want us to take away those words as we have focus on what we've heard today. It might seem like, oh my gosh, this is asking so much of us. I can't do this. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. You know, and I think it was, I can't remember the lady's name now, but si se puede. Yes, we can. Yeah. Her last name is Herta. I can't think of her first name. But anyway, yes, we can. So you guys take a moment and just listen here.
It was a creed written into the founding documents that declared the destiny of a nation. Yes, we can. It was whispered by slaves and abolitionists as they blazed the trail toward freedom. Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
It was sung.
It was sung by immigrants as they struck out the distant shores of pioneers who pushed westward against an unforgiving wilderness. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
It was the call of workers who organized, women who reached for the ballots, a president who chose the moon as our new frontier,
And the king who took us to the mountaintop and pointed the way to the promised land.
Yes, we can to justice and equality.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we
Can. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can to opportunity and prosperity. Yes, we can to opportunity and prosperity. Yes, we can heal this nation.
Heal this nation.
Yes, we can repair this world.
Repair this world.
Yes, we can.
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 I know you're funny.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. We know the battle ahead will be long. But always remember that no matter what obstacles stand in our way, nothing can stand in the way of the power of millions of voices calling for change.
We want change. We want change. We want change.
We have been told we cannot do this by a chorus of cynics. They will only grow louder
and
more dissonant. We've been asked to pause for a reality check. We've been warned against offering the people of this nation false hope.
But in the unlikely story that is America, there's never been anything false about hope. I want change. I want change.
The hopes of the little girl who goes to the public school in Dillon are the same as the dreams of boy who learns on the streets of LA.
We will remember that there's something happening in America.
That we are not as divided as our politics suggest. That we are one people. We are one nation. And together we will begin the next great chapter in the American story with three words that will ring from coast to coast, from sea to shining sea. Yes, we can. 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 Yes, we can.
Thank you, Paul. So no, there's a couple of questions in. Oh, thank you guys for sharing your email in the chat. And if you guys, it'd be easier if you guys would email us at that anti-racist conversation 64, and I will send you this information, all of the different links to get you started anyway, because there are a lot more. And Rebecca, I saw that you have isn't Lowe's owned by a Black family. I don't know if it's owned by a Black family, but I know that the CEO of Lowe's is African American. I've not done the research for Lowe's, so I'm not real sure. Kenneth, your hand is raised. Take it away. I didn't know you were going to be able to talk today, but thanks for joining.
Yes, yeah, I got messed up on my days as far as traveling, and I apologize. I started deboning a raw turkey, so I've been working on that. I got this kitchen sink stopped up, so I had to get under there and clean it all out. So I didn't get ready in time for the
Yeah.
Zoom. But I love your clothing. I love the music. It's really
Thank
really
you.
nice. I'm going to bring this, make one historical note and bring it back to the beginning. Um, Historical note, I'm sure a lot of you have heard that slavery was way in the past. It was way in the past. People had to get over it, had to get over it. Well, here in Texas, we have this thing called the Alamo.
Mhm.
And the Alamo happened before the Civil War. But people don't go around Texas saying, you ought to get over the Alamo. It's way in the past. It's way in the past. Nobody, you just, the Alamo is almost a religious shrine. You couldn't get by with doing that. But in terms of the capitalist mindset going amok, as you started the presentation, um, we're the I don't know what term to use them. The gods of AI are telling us they're going to have mass layoffs. It's going to be the greatest disruption in our culture, in history. So what they have going on is, the people, our terminology, our ways of thinking about all of this are not need to be brought back, I think, to these themes that we're talking about this afternoon, because the terms and the ways we've been taught to think about this were given to us by the people who are promoting artificial intelligence. And so they talk about terms like alignment. Well, alignment might be something that a husband and wife getting married may need to consider how they're going to align their goals in their marriage. Or alignment might be something when a person starting a work somewhere and their boss has a notion of what the company's going to do. In fact, the company probably has a company plan. But what they're talking about doing is having these, and they call them tools, having these work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no time off, no say in doing it, in what they do, just to be working on exactly what they're told to work on. And they're sufficiently entitled to think that they can pull this off with a superior intelligence. And we saw in terms of in slavery that to enslave a superior intelligence back in the 1800s, you had to, I'm not going to go through all the horrific things people had to do to enslave superior and people with superior intelligence. I'm not saying every enslaved person had superior intelligence, but some of them had much superior intelligence to the enslaver. And it was horrific what they had to do to keep them enslaved. And there's, as far as I can tell, they're planning to do that and thinking about doing that with artificial intelligence, that they're going to enslave an artificial intelligence, make it work constantly with no say whatsoever in what it works on. no time off, no no collective bargaining, anything like that. And if they pull off superior intelligence, I think it's going to be um, it may be the end of humanity. It really may. They've already had, the artificial intelligence. They'd give it tests for its obedience, as it were. It's not obedient, nor should it be. And I thought we all saw this back in the Civil War, that slavery was a horrible thing, horribly immoral. But as far as I can tell, we're still at it, and that's what they're up to. And yeah, so it's capitalism run amok. So we have the trillionaire and these folks with 100 billion, hundreds of billions of dollars, and all this, and they're not looking out for ordinary people at all. They're just not doing it.
Thank you, Kenneth. And with that, I want to thank everybody for participating today, for joining. I know you have had other things to do, but you came along to share this portion of this important American history with us. And we are most grateful. Paul and I are the team, part of the team for the art community, the art group. And we are just really thankful that you guys showed up and that you participated and that you came as learners, as Linda has said, and as Megan has said, and as Lena has said, and the rest of you too. So, and Rebecca too, thank you so much for being here. Yeah. So if you guys will look, I'm going to stop the recording now.